Hello and welcome to Read with Ronald. Today on this edition, me and Tati read Their Eyes Are Watching God. This was our book swap pick for the month of May.
It's your girl Tati back at it with another video. We've been supposed to get into this, so let's get into it. First published in 1937, Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God follows Janie as she recounts her story of how she discovered what it means to live life. Written over a 7-week period, Hurston sought to accurately and positively portray Black Americans living in the southern United States during the time. However, Their Eyes Are Watching God was met with criticisms by Hurston's peers as being stereotypical and counterproductive to the image and goals of the new Negro during the Harlem Renaissance. Renewed interest in Hurston and her works were generated in the 1970s after author Alice Walker published an article in Miss Magazine recounting her experiences with Hurston's work and finding her gravesite.
Before we get into the video and the discussion, today's Bible verse of the day is Luke 10:19, as you can see on my shirt. Luke 10:19 from the King James Version reads, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." So let's break this down. So, behold. The verse starts with behold. So when you behold something, you're looking at something. Jesus, because Jesus is the one who says this. Jesus is saying, behold. He's saying, look. He's saying, pay attention to what I'm trying to tell you. And he goes on to say, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions. So the key portion in this portion of the scripture is to tread, right? When you tread on something, the definition for tread is to walk in a specified way. When Jesus said, I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, if you put that definition in there and substitute it, I give you power to walk in a specified way on serpents and scorpions. Jesus is the one who gives us power. Why can Jesus give us power? Because Jesus, he's God made flesh. That's a whole other explanation. Just go research the Trinity. He is the Word made flesh, right? And since Jesus is the embodiment of the living Word, he has the authority and the power to give us power to do stuff. So he's giving us power to walk in a specified way. So what is the specified way? In holiness and righteousness. And what way is that? That way is to walk in faith and obedience to the Lord. To walk in faith in Jesus Christ, believing that he is the Son of God and that he came and died and rose again for our sins, and to walk in obedience, to adhere to what God tells us to do. That's what he means by to walk in a specified way. Now, the reason he says on serpents and scorpions, remember in Genesis, it was a serpent used to cause the fall of man, okay? Because it was the devil who took the form of a serpent to trick Adam and Eve into eating that fruit. So I don't know about y'all, but where I live, snakes and scorpions are common, and they can easily get into your stuff. You don't notice them. For example, one day I was walking around the house in the kitchen to go get something to drink. I walk over a spot, get me a cup, go to walk back over that spot, a scorpion just right there, just then appeared. I'm like, what the world? I had to take the fly swatter and smack, had to kill it. Because if you don't take care of them, they can get in your stuff, they can hide. Scorpions have the ability to hide, to wrap themselves up and go hidden. Or if you get too close, they get in defense mode and they start trying to sting you. And scorpion stings hurt. Snake bites hurt too. I personally would not know because I have not been bitten or stung, but I know that they hurt. The reason those are examples is because they can easily get in your stuff, and if you're not paying attention, if you're not walking in a specified way, they can get in your life and start tearing stuff up, start stinging, start biting, start torturing you. You wouldn't know until they're there. But when you walk in a specified way, when you tread on them, you see them. The Lord points them out to you and lets you know, hey, you need to go step on that. You need to go take care of that. You need to go kill that. Get rid of that. He gives you the power to do it, i.e. he gives you the instruction how to do it, shows you how to do it, and then he trusts you to go do it while also keeping his eye on you while you do it. So that way, if you mess up, he can, come in and be like, okay, let's try that again. And it's also, and over all the power of the enemy. So he's also giving you power to tread over all the power of the enemies. So that goes on to expand to all the things that the enemy can use against you, such as pain, trauma, shame, trying to remind you of what the Lord has delivered you from, using temptation. The Lord has given you power to tread over all of that. All you got to do is trust him and heed his voice. Listen to the Holy Spirit that he's placed inside of you. And why has he done all of this? Because the important part is, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. When you trust the Lord and you walk in the power that he's giving you to tread over the enemy, nothing by any means means shall hurt you. So how does this relate to their eyes are watching God, right? So I want to start this off by saying that this is going to be kind of a stretch because I did choose this verse just literally because it was on my shirt, but we gonna make it work. Well, let's start with the title. The title is literally their eyes were watching God. The title comes from this scene. There's a specific scene that's taking place in the midst of a storm in the book, and the characters, they can't do nothing but look at the sky because that's just how bad the storm is. Relating that back to a biblical principle, you know, when you in the midst of the storm, the Lord is gonna take you through the storm. He's not gonna take you around it. He's not gonna take you under it. He's not gonna take you over it. He's gonna take you through it, because going through it is gonna make you stronger. It's gonna make you more able to be dependent on him and trust him to get you through the storm, right? And the only way you're gonna be able to get through the storm is by keeping your eyes and your focus on the Lord. Think Peter walking on the water in the storm. He was able to do it as long as he kept his eyes focused on Jesus. But the minute he stopped looking at Jesus because he got afraid and started paying attention to the storm and everything going on around him, that's when he started sinking, because he stopped focusing on what was important, which was keeping his focus on Jesus, and Jesus had to swoop in and save him and snatch him about the water. So the only way you're going to be able to get through the storm is by keeping your eyes on the Lord. And that's the only way you're going to be able to walk in the specific way that he wants you to walk, which is by keeping your eyes and your focus and your mind on him and being faithful and being obedient by reading your word, worshiping, praying, those type of things. I would say that it relates to Janie. You know, Janie, she went through a lot of stuff in this book. You know, her faith didn't really come up all that much in the book, right? Life put her through a lot. But, you know, every time it knocked her down, she had to keep getting up, had to keep going. I believe that relates to this verse, because this verse is saying, I've given you power to walk over and walk on all of this stuff that is affecting you in your life, and it shall not hurt you. And that's what Janie had to keep doing in the book. She had to keep getting up and keep going, no matter how hard it got, how painful it got. She had to get up and keep going. She couldn't let life keep her down. And in the end, we saw how it contributed to what she had learned in her life and how she had come to be okay with who she was as a person and how things had gone off for her in her life. Yeah, that's today's scripture of the day. I just want to encourage you all, as always, don't let life knock you down. Keep going, keep standing strong. Preferably, you should want to do this with a strong faith in our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. So I always, as always, want to encourage you, if you don't have a relationship with Jesus, to go ahead and seek one. Get right with him. You know, the end is coming. The end is near. Jesus is coming back. And let me start off by saying that yes, the end is coming, but don't do it out of fear. Don't get right with him, oh, because Ronald said the end is coming. No, you should want to get to know Jesus and live life with Jesus, because let's be real, life with Jesus is better than life without Jesus. Life without Jesus is a mess. Life with Jesus can look like a mess. But when you have Jesus, even though it can look like a mess, you know ultimately all things are going to work together for our good. I do want to encourage you to get a relationship with Jesus, but not out of fear of because the end is coming and Ronald said we need to. No. Get a relationship with Jesus because you truly want a relationship with him. You truly want to get to know him, and you truly want to live for him and live with him and shine his light through you and just share his love, because that's what relationship with Jesus is truly about. It's truly about showing love and showing Christ's love to others. It's not about getting other people to follow him in fear, because what ends up happening is, and what we have seen is, when people get a relationship with air quotes out of fear, a relationship based on fear is never going to work. It's just going to cause a whole bunch of other issues. You want a relationship based out of love and out of respect, not out of fear, like, oh, I'm afraid, fear. That's basically our scripture of the day. So I just want to encourage you to go through life treading on serpents, scorpions, and all the power of the enemy. You need Jesus to do that. I'm gonna let you know that now. If you try to do it without Jesus, it's not gonna work. Don't be afraid to go through life. Don't be afraid to go through the storm, because going through the storm, you're gonna come out on the other side as good as gold. So stand strong, be good, be courageous, and most importantly, show love in the way that God would have you to show love, okay? And so with that being said, let's get into the video. So yeah, their eyes were watching God. So how did I get this book? I want to sound like 17, 18. I was looking for books to read by Black authors, and you know, this was one of the books that was heavily recommended. I think I got it like my freshman year of college, but I didn't end up reading it till my sophomore year, because what had happened was I was taking African American literature. I think we was reading Homegoing by Y'all Jesse, and my professor, it was a point in the book where like it was a character, and the way that character was described, she was like, if they ever make a movie, they need to have this character look this way, because if not, I'm gonna be mad. And then she went on this rant about the Their Eyes Were Watching God movie. You know, she was talking about it, and I was just sitting there praying she didn't spoil it. Thankfully, she didn't. spoil it too much, but she did tell me about the funniest scene in the book. So yeah, that's what prompted me to go finish the book, because that's one of her favorite books. Just in case she went on another rant, I would at least know what the storyline was about and know what happened and went on in the book. So that's how I ended up reading it. And when I finished reading it, I loved it. Fast forward to this year, we're doing book swap, and I've been trying to get Tati to read this book for years. And so I took this opportunity. I was like, you are gonna read this book. So we read it, and this is the video. I just want to give some warnings. First, there's a trigger warning. There are some triggering things like colorism, racism, domestic violence. The second is spoiler warning. Let you know we going all through the plot, and to let you know that if you don't want to be spoiled, feel free to turn off the video here, and thanks for watching. And if you decide that you want to come back after reading the book or watching the movie to hear what we have to say, feel free. Today is May 24th. I've started reading Their Eyes Were Watching God. I've already read this book before, so yeah. It's more like I'm rereading it, and I am enjoying the reread. But I didn't expect us to get so quickly to Eatonville with Joe and them. Once again, I am hating all of Janie's husbands. I'm noticing a lot of things I didn't notice the first time I read, and just like the first time I read it, I hated Logan the least, and I am probably gonna hate Tea Cake the most, just like it was the first time I read it. But I do know I hated all of her husbands. They all sucked. But with that being said, this time I actually read the foreword before I read the story. The first time I didn't read the foreword, because whenever you read a foreword, usually they tend to spoil the plot line, and I did not want to be spoiled the first time. But this time, since I already knew the story, I read the foreword and I loved it. It was relevant, it was amazing, it was well done, and it revealed some very shocking things. Like, first of all, I didn't know that Zora Neale Hurston wrote this book in only 7 weeks, and I'm like, I wish I could write a book in 7 weeks. I'd be struggling just to make it through a year. If she wrote this whole book in 7 weeks with this amount of layering, and it was amazing. It was well done. I'm enjoying the read so far. So today is May 26th. I'm on chapter 8 of Their Eyes Are Watching God. I'm still enjoying this book. Very much 5-star read, but I don't remember it going this fast. Like, we pretty much already through the part with Janie and Joe. We finna hit the part with TK. I'm like, dang, this going a little faster than I remember. I could have sworn Joe was in the book longer than like 3 chapters. So that means majority of this book is spent with TK, and he is my least favorite. It's like every husband got worse and worse. Joe is about to depart us in the book, and we are finna get into the TK saga. So today is May 29th. I love this book. But I hate TK so much. I'm like, I don't even want to go through this part, because he's just that irritating and annoying. Yeah, so I'm about halfway through the book, to the part where T-Cake shows up, and yeah. It's not even the fact that T-Cake is showing up. It's just that, Logan was only here for like 2 chapters. Joe was only here for like 3 chapters. Like, for some reason, I thought they were in the book longer than they were, but they weren't. T-Cake is supposed to be like Janie's favorite husband. So he's here for a little bit. It's hilarious how he's her favorite husband, but he's my least favorite of her husbands. Because he's the one that she loved the most. Of course, he's going to be the one that she talks to. I don't feel like reading about this man. So today is May 31st. I technically have 2 chapters left on Their Eyes Are Watching God, but I already know what's going to happen. So yeah, it's still a 5-star read. I find it ironic. T-Cake is the one who taught Janie how to shoot, and in the end, it's Janie who ends up having to shoot him because he's gone mad from being bitten by a dog that had rabies. And so I find it ironic. I enjoyed this book. I still hate all her husbands, especially T-Cake. And that's all I can say on it.
What did you rate the book?
Oh, you already know I gave this book a 5.
I rated the book the same, a 5. I was listening to it, and I'm like, is this book a 5? This book a 5. I was thinking, like, did I give it a 4 before? Because, baby, I think it's 5 worthy, but I think I just gave it a 5 the whole time because, yeah, it's a 5 for me, period.
It was a 5 the first time I read it. It was a 5 this time. She wasn't getting nothing lower than that.
Baby, because she deserved nothing lower than that. Let me tell y'all, writing wise, this is a really good book. Crazy. And then I had the audio version. So I was listening to Ruby D read it, and baby, she ate that up. She ate that up. I had read half the book already online, but I'm not really an ebook person. So I was like, you know what? I have Audible. Let me just listen to it on Audible. And that was the best thing I could have did. Because 1, I realized I got through a lot of the book. Like, I was already halfway through the book. And then 2, baby, when you hear it, if y'all listen to the Audible, it is She did an amazing, fantastic job, especially with Southern voices, because people don't always capture Southern voices correctly. She did it so much justice. Everybody voices so much justice. So I shout out to Ruby Dee. I appreciate her.
Hmm. She, well, I didn't hear the audiobook, but I saw her in the movie. She killed it in the movie.
All right, so we're gonna start with the
So,
book because we
yeah,
did
I'm
the
gonna
book, we
start.
watched the movie, so we're gonna start with the book.
I have this special 75th anniversary version right here. And that came with a little foreword. So I want to start with the foreword because there was some things in here that I like. So, first of all, did you know that she wrote this whole book in 7 weeks?
The talent that
When
I
I
wish I could have. I write, but I'm a short story person. I could not, and especially 7 weeks to develop these characters, to develop the relationship, the story. I yeah.
The crazy part is she was in the middle of another project when she wrote this. So she was busy doing something else and she just real quick just let me just type this out.
Let me do a little side quest because this is the thing I will say about characters. When you have characters on your mind or you have a story on your mind, it is sometimes like, I got to get this out. And a lot of times of writing, I don't know how other people do their process, but for me, when I write, the characters just doing like I'm in my mind, I'm picturing, I'm like they moving. So I understand like having to get that, especially if you're doing a different project, because it's like this over here, this character calling my name, but this character don't really fit in this story. Like they interesting. I like what's going, but they don't really fit with what I'm doing. So she probably just had to scratch that itch. Let me stop. But yeah.
No, because let me tell y'all something. When I was writing one of my previous books, I was laying in the bed just doing the scene, right? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write it down in the morning. Do you think I wrote that scene down in the morning? No, I didn't. Because I got up, I was like, shoot, what was the scene? Oh no.
Hmm.
That's just a little shameless plug in there. If y'all want to go buy my books, go buy them.
Now I do have that one. I got all of them. I'm reading the last one of Creek that's been published, but that's the one I'm reading right now. It's been good so far. It is a shameless plug, but okay, look, because he telling people he write books, and then don't show him the books, baby. I have all of them.
So she wrote this book in 7 weeks, right? In the middle of doing something else. I was reading this foreword. There was a lot of good things in this foreword. But something that really stuck out to me was this quote from another book that says, it's basically talking about black people like all over the world. So not just black American people. It says, we are a people and a people do not throw their geniuses away. That really stuck out to me because if you know Zora Neale Hurston's history and like just how her life went and how her ending went, that is just such a good quote. Not only to describe her, but just to describe how we should be in general when it comes to our stuff.
Now I feel like honestly, especially the writers that even we've read, I think they've honored that quote. I think they've done a really good job at keeping that alive. And you could even, for me, I feel like you could see a lot of her influence in the different books that we read. Not, and it's not in the way of copying the book, it's just paying homage to the person, to the people that came before them. And baby, you could tell because you had some good for mothers. Yeah.
This is gonna make sense if you watch my beloved video, but in my notes I wrote Baby Shugs got to do what Nanny didn't. Baby Shugs is the grandma from Beloved, and Nanny is the grandma from this book. So in this book, Nanny, she had all these dreams, right? But she didn't get to accomplish them because of the time period. So she basically kind of just like pushed her dreams off onto Janie and was like, "You gonna have to fulfill them, girl, because I couldn't do it." But I wrote in my notes, Baby Shugs got to do what Nanny didn't because Baby Shugs, she got to fulfill her dreams. She got to, well, fulfill most of them. She got to get out of slavery. Her son bought her out of slavery, I think. And then it's been a minute since I read the book, so give me some grace here. But yeah, I think her son bought her out of slavery, so she got to move up there. Basically, got to become a pillar of the community. She basically got to live a good life after slavery, and so it's like she got to do what Nanny didn't. She got to accomplish her dreams and live a good life. Whereas Nanny kind of had to like, Janie, you gonna have to do it because I couldn't do it.
I feel like I was gonna start with her grandmother. I don't even know how to say it. It was like how I guess a lot of parents feel with the second born, or like just in general grandparents raising their grandbabies or whatever, where she was just saying how like she got a chance to do it over, to start over. But here's the thing I do want to say about this. I don't know the details of the family relationship and the family dynamic, but there was nothing that she could do. Honestly, like none of that was her fault. None of that was a parenting issue. That was all just the circumstances of the time and the what the man decided to do. And of course, how her daughter decided to heal might not have been the best way to heal. But honestly, I don't see it as a failure of her as a parent, even though she saw it as that. It didn't have nothing to do with her. It was really about the man, to be honest. And child, I wouldn't without anybody, but I guess I could also see why she was just ready for her to get taken care of too as well, because Janie don't have nobody, didn't have nobody and doesn't, other than her grandma. So I guess she also is like, I was there for my baby. When she needed help, if she had to come back, she could have came back. If she had when she had you, I was able to take care of you. You start having babies, ain't nobody gonna be able to take care of them babies, and you're not gonna be able to take care of babies because you don't know how to take care of yourself, honestly. So like I see the importance, especially of her like already knowing or having a feeling that like I'm tired, I'm a pass. So the grandma, wish she would have gave herself a little bit more grace, honestly, because that wasn't even really her fault. But and even afterwards, because afterwards I would like to be like, she should have let Janie do this, all the things of like, how sometimes it's like, oh, I'm not the villain. She a real villain of the story because she over here got Janie married to this man. Like, you could say that, given the times, she did right by her. Given the times, she did right by her because you don't always marry the people that you love. And back then, especially, even now, the person you marry can make or break your relationship. We see it time and time again. The person that you decide to have a relationship with, especially marry and have kids with, it does affect like your age. And she put her with a well-off person that could make sure that she was taken care of, which was the most important thing. And I think that he did. I didn't like him. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't really like him, but did I like any of them really? Not really. But I think he started to show his true side. And I think that's more of him being insecure because Janie was so much younger than him. He had already had a wife before, so he had that. But Janie's so much younger than him feeling like she's privileged. He already had that feeling inside that she might run off with somebody else because she don't know no better. Because she's just so pretty. So I already saw it going way downhill before she left. So I'm glad that she left. Like I'm glad she left and things turned out right for her when she left. Because honestly, baby, that man could have been lying. Joe could have been saying whatever he could because he was talking a big game. Everybody was like, "This black man ain't gonna be doing nothing," and that really could have happened for her. But I'm glad it wasn't. I'm glad that this wasn't the type of story at that point in time. Like it wasn't that type of story being told.
I think out of all her husbands, I hated her first one the least.
Really?
Out of all three of them, I hated him the least. I guess it's just because he wasn't in the book that long. He was only there for like 2 chapters. And like we knew why she was married to him. They wasn't trying to pretend like they was in love. Like they knew they didn't love each other. They knew what they was together for. If I can just be honest, yes, it was wrong for him to be like, "Oh, you so privileged because you think you pretty" and all this other type of stuff. But if I could just be honest, what was Janie really expecting to do once she got on that farm?
Nothing.
Like eventually she was gonna have to get to work.
I might change his ranking as time go on, but he's bottom to me, next to second level. And the reason why I say that he like here and kind of tied with one other person. And why I say that is because we didn't get to see what he was gonna do, but we got a glimpse of seeing what he was gonna do. You knew this girl ain't never worked hard in her life. You knew this girl ain't never picked no peas. You know that she ain't never went outside. You know she ain't never plowed no horse, and you knew that. And that was probably a part of the attraction because, of course, she gonna be prettier. Her clothes gonna be nicer. Her body gonna look different. She gonna be all these things because she don't got rough hands like your old wife. She don't have all these things like your old wife, and that's probably something that attracted you to her. But one thing I already knew and I saw and why I didn't like him is because you already got this girl. She in the house. She cooking, cleaning, doing. It's not like she just laying around. She in the house cooking, cleaning. You all doing the man's work. You need to stay out doing a man's work instead of trying to have your wife do a man's work. Go hire somebody else. You got all this land, you're gonna make all this money. You need to hire somebody else to take care of it. And two, I already seen where it was going. He was gonna beat her, even though I know it's some other people in the story, fast forward. But I already knew he was gonna beat her. One, because he was scared of her running away because she was so pretty. But two, he was probably gonna beat her too because she was gonna be messing like she can't do that type of work. She was not built to be doing that type of work. She didn't love him, so she definitely mentally wasn't gonna be able to do that type of work. So he definitely knew by that time, like if she didn't leave him then, he knew by the time, like, oh, if I have her out in this field and he's seen how she reacted to it, which she wasn't gonna react good, he was gonna start probably beating her because it's like, oh yeah, she gonna run away. That's why I didn't really like him anyway. You want to marry this girl, and now you trying to make it seem like you doing, like I said, you want to seem like you doing me favors when this an even exchange. You want the young pretty wife, and baby, you talking about you got these acres like you a big baller, like you could take care of this young pretty wife. So you ain't doing me no favors by marrying me. You married me because you like what you saw. That's why you married me. So go ahead and take care of me like you claimed you would. You want to claim you got all these acres, 60 acres, and now I gotta plow the 60 acres? That's what you're telling me? I have to plow the 60 acres? No, that's not happening. You need to figure it out. That's not happening. I think those are things that as a woman, you probably think of more. Like as a woman, it's like little things that you pick up from because you've been wondering about it so much. So it's like, even though I didn't see it, I'm like, I could already see, knowing this type of person, knowing people's experience, where it might be going.
I agree with that, and I agree with everything you said because I was just finna come back and clean up my statement. Because I said, what was Janie expected to do? But I had to think about it. Janie was like, she was like, what, like 16, 17? Like you said, she
Yeah.
ain't never did no hard work. And if we gonna be honest, Nanny didn't prepare her for none of this. Nanny just said, go marry that man. You're gonna be taken care of. She ain't tell her. Nanny probably knew because she'd been on the earth for a little bit longer. She could have probably warned Janie, okay, girl, you're not gonna be able to sit pretty forever. At some point, he gonna expect you to do some stuff. Like, but I definitely agree with what you said, especially like you looking at it versus me looking at it, because you looking at it from Janie's perspective, you could probably relate to Janie's perspective, and I'm over here kind of like just kind of looking at it from both of their perspectives because Janie is the main character, of course, but I can also see Logan's perspective because I'm a black man like Logan.
He was okay. He wasn't the worst of the group. I will say that too, though. It wasn't like he was just a terrible person. I was more
Yeah.
attracted to him. I don't think it would have even been that bad. She was more attracted to him. I think it would have been fine. And I also think even with him, I don't think I would see it getting as bad if he didn't think she was out of his league as well. But then that man come around, and you were like, "Oh, is she still 16?" You know how they were talking about Candy. Joe was talking about, you probably still like whatever type of candy, and she was like, "Yeah, I do like it." And he gonna marry her, and then when they go to town, when they go into Edensville, and they like, "Oh, that's your daughter," he want to clutch his pearl. About, I'm not old enough to have a daughter that age. Okay.
You're
Okay.
not you're not old enough to have a
Okay.
daughter that age, but you old enough to go run a town. You have to be old enough to have somehow made all this money that you spent to run the town. So you gotta at least be in your 30s.
You yourself said she looked young. Back in that time, you could have definitely had a kid her age. I think that was also his first mark of, like, I guess, insecurity, because he was like, I'm that old. She's that young. I don't know if you're that old, but she's that young.
On the ranking of husbands, Joe is like in the middle. I dislike Logan the least. Joe is like in the middle because I didn't realize Joe was only in the book for like 3, 4 chapters. I thought he was there a lot longer because when I read it the first time, he seemed like he was there forever.
He
Like,
did.
yeah, he's only here for like 3, 4 chapters. I'm like, wait a minute. I could have sworn you was in this book a lot longer than you was.
Baby, for me, it felt like half the book. It felt
That's
like
how
Joe was in the book for at least half the book.
that's how it felt when I read it. I'm like, I felt like you was half the book, but you only here for like 4 chapters.
Let me tell you, Joe is probably, out of the husbands, actually my favorite husband. Joe is probably my favorite husband. I think the only reason why Joe is maybe my favorite husband is One, he did do what he said he was gonna do. Everything he said he was gonna do, he did. Like he didn't warn her exactly of what it was gonna be, but he did do everything he said he was gonna do. Number two, why I feel like he is one of my favorites is because I feel like I had more, and maybe because she wrote him in a little bit more, but I feel like we had more of an understanding of him. Like I feel like he was fully developed, and I had a lot of understanding of why he did certain things. And I feel like the problem is if he would have told Janie those things, she probably would be a lot less like upset with him. It wouldn't be as much of like she would have because I feel like at the beginning she did love him. I feel like at the beginning they did like each other. They thought it was cute. And I feel like, the little honeymoon phase, they got along. But I feel like as things went along, he had too like, how men in time were, had too much of this. I'm gonna tell you a part of it. You only need to know a part of it. And you just need to listen to me. And it's like you're not listening to your wife. You're not taking no vacation because you're trying to work so hard. You giving her this house, she in this house bored. She don't know how to do half of this stuff in the store. You need to just hire an attendant because you can pay for it. And then like even the stuff with her putting up her hair and stuff like that. Instead of like really explaining it to her, like because you don't want to seem insecure. That's why you really don't want to explain it because you don't want to seem insecure, but you are insecure about it. And that's the thing. What they always say, you don't get you a attractive woman if you can't handle it. You loved her hair. You love her having her hair out. That's one thing that attracted almost all the men to her. But now you want her to put it up because now you got her. Now you want her to put it up. And it's like, when does she let her hair down? Because y'all don't never see each other at the house anyways. Like when do you get to just sit in her beauty? When do you get to do those type of things? And it's like, I just wish he would have been a lot more open with her. And I feel like their relationship would have been, if they had just a little bit more communication, I feel like their relationship would have went a lot further and would have been a lot better. But I guess it had to be that way for the story.
When you read the story, you got to take into account the time period. Like, we reading it from modern day perspective. The story is written in like 1937 and is written for a 1937 audience. It reflects what Zora Neale Hurston researched of the South and what the attitudes were of black men and women in the South, even though the other black writers wanted to play her and wanted to be mad because she reflected what Southern black life was like. And they wanted to exclude her and wanted to act like, oh, it's not what they wanted to portray, even though it was the truth. I just had to go on that little side tangent real quick. So I could kind of understand why Joe was being the way he, even though he was getting on my nerves, and that's why I didn't like him, because he was doing too much. And should he have communicated all of this to Janie? Yes. But did I expect him to? No, because he's a black man living in the 30s. And the attitude of the time, first of all, it's already hard enough just being black, period, regardless of the time. I could understand because it's like he running this town, so he got to run the town, he got to run this household, he got this attractive wife, and that's making him insecure because all the other men like his attractive wife. And so he's trying to maintain this image of, oh, I'm the head black man in charge. I got to make sure I keep all of this under lock. And so, of course, he's not going to explain none of this to Janie because he's like, if I tell Janie what's going on with me, how I feel, she gonna look at me like I'm less than, like I'm weak, like I can't handle it. And then she gonna start being disrespectful. But what ended up happening was because he didn't tell her, he didn't let her know, she started, I'm not gonna say be disrespectful, but she started treating him like he was weak and less than anyways, because he wasn't keeping it real.
It's like sometimes we do stuff to protect other people or to protect ourselves when you just made her fall out of love with you. And that's what she told him when he was like passing away. She like, no, I'm gonna tell you this, baby, because you ain't let me talk this whole time. I'm gonna tell you the truth. You pushed me out. I wanted to be in love with you. I was in love with you at one point. You know how she said her flowers, because it was a metaphor actually, but compare her to a tree and like it being in bloom and having flowers. And when she married Logan, all of that went away. But then when she met Joe and she married him, she's like, she sees it blossoming again. She's like, she never gonna go back to being like a barren tree again. And that's what she really wanted. That's what she felt. And then he started pushing her out. And he closed off that love. And you want to say like your wife don't love you or don't respect you, when it isn't really about what your wife did, it's about you. And I think that that's really probably why people were getting mad at this book about the representation of it being. First of all, this is one of the most respectful versions of country that I have seen, especially of depicting country people. They were still depicted as people that had emotions, that had thoughts, that were intelligent. Some of these people, they probably just saw a little bit too much of themselves in Joe, and it probably made them mad. That's probably what it also was, because Joe was the respectable man. He's all these things that they probably can identify with, but his wife don't love him because of all these other things that's going on. And instead of thinking, I can be a better husband, I can maybe communicate, I can maybe learn from Joe, it's probably, oh, she got 3 men and they just terrible husbands and they this and that, when they weren't even that bad, to be honest. Well, let me not say that, because some of them were terrible, but I think given the times, it wasn't. I just don't understand creating a black town being considered a bad representation. I really just don't understand it, especially like post-slavery. There were towns like this.
Shoot, this town is an actual town. The characters aren't real, but the town is real. It actually exists.
He done came, he done made, then brought them light, then brought them a store, then created, then upgraded everything. Why we don't want to live in this fantasy?
I'm pretty sure Joe is based on her grandfather. I think. I could be wrong. It's based off somebody that she's related to that did all of this.
Yeah, and it's a real person. I hate when people do that too. Like, this not realistic. For who? For who? Just because you've never seen it. And I be feeling like too, it be people that's not even from the South that want to say stuff. Just like when they were talking about like the accent and how they can't understand people. It's because you're not from the South to even be saying this. Because you over here, a lot of y'all speak in slang anyways. Where do you think they come from? The same little country bumpkins y'all want to make fun of that y'all saying y'all can't understand and illiterate. What do you think Ebonics comes from? Where do you think AAVE comes from? You think it comes from the white people? You think it comes from upper class black people? Who do you think brought that to? Because the people up north were either free already that read and all this other type of stuff, educated, or they moved up there a lot of times. People moved up there. Let me not even be like that. But I feel like that's an element of respectability politics, and that's what it really is. People just want to be respectful to white people.
They try to act like people from the South is dumb and unintelligent and stuff like this. I'm going to use Beyonce as an example, because I saw this video on Twitter where they was talking about how country she sounded and stuff like this, and how she had to like make her accent less pronounced so that people would accept her and stuff like that. And they like made this video of an example of her talking back when she was talking country. I'm just listening to it like it's regular, and it wasn't until I saw a retweet that said it might just be me because we from the same place, but she sound regular to me. And at that point I was like,
she talks like a regular girl.
first of all, that made me think, how do I sound to other people who's not from where we're from? I feel like that is part of the reason why she sounded regular to me, is because I'm from the same state as her. And so I'm used to hearing people talk like that. My point is that when she was talking, she sound regular. She sound, like you said, she sound regular. She sound normal.
People just want to have a problem with something. And then to say that you sound uneducated because you have a Southern accent. Y'all need to unpack that. Y'all need to unpack. That's the thing. People need to unpack that. Why does a Southern accent and speaking in Ebonics, AAVE, as y'all say, why does they equate to illiterate when it's from a Southern person? When they up north saying you mad dumb, you you die. When they in Baltimore talking about some Baltimore and talking about you stupid, y'all think that's fine. That's not illiterate. Well, y'all do be talking to people from Baltimore. But anyway, but when it's a Southern accent with AAVE, then you're illiterate, then you're dumb, then you're not smart. So much so that people have to go through vocal acting and vocal like lessons to speak less like that. That's ridiculous. That I was gonna say the same thing. I feel the same way, because when I talk to people outside of Texas, people do say I have an accent. Even people sometimes in Texas say I have an accent. I just feel like we need to unpack where the respectability politics come from, and where the standard of literate and the standard of being smart that come from, and unpack that. Because she, especially in this book, I feel like she did such a good job with representing Southern people that I just can't understand why. And it's like, the only way I could fathom it is it has to be people that's not from the South. Like, it has to be something to where you see it that way. Because even that other girl said that of like how she was portraying people to be so stupid because it was a whole thing on Twitter because of how they were talking that she made them seem stupid.
I'm thinking what we actually gonna read when it's my turn next time. We gonna read this. We gonna read Their Eyes Were Watching God because I'm gonna go on a mini rant while Tati get this book.
Oh,
It
I
was
got it,
this
but yeah.
girl. It was this girl that decided to be very disrespectful and decided to say that Miss Zora Neale Hurston could not
Ooh,
write.
come on now. Come on now.
I've already
Come
read
on now.
this book. I've already read this book, but I'm willing to read it again because it was just that good.
No, you just can't read. You just can't read. That's all. You don't have phenomic awareness to be able to make out the sound of each vowel to know what she's trying to say. That's really what's going on. Because she's spelling it how we speak it. And that's a problem, I guess, in the English language is y'all don't see that part because you really can't read it and understand it. I'm gonna get off of my rant and we're gonna go back to the book because y'all know we Southern, so we're gonna talk about it. And actually, it's a big element of the book. Actually,
I have a lot to say on this topic because, I've been doing like family research and stuff on my family. And my family is one of them families that migrated north during the Great Migration. That's number one. But also, number two, some of my family members going to be mad because I got family members in Baltimore. So they're going to be a little mad, but they'll be all right.
it was no shade to my Baltimore people. I love y'all now. My hairstylist from Baltimore.
Well, like you were saying, like a lot of people that like are a lot of black people in the north, a lot of them came from the south. Like my family, we talked about that in the Sula video. And so the reason I'm bringing this up because I had this funny story that because you was talking about like how there's like cultural differences between people from the north and from the south. So because my family migrated north and was there for like a few generations, so one day me and my grandma when she was visiting, we were cleaning the house. And so she was like, Ronald, go get me a sweeper, right? Because where she's from, they call vacuum cleaners sweepers. So she's like, go get me a sweeper. So I didn't know what a sweeper was. So I went and brought her a broom. And she was like, what is this?
What's wrong with it, brother?
I'm like, you said go get me a sweeper. And she was like, no, go get me a sweeper. So then my mom came in the room. She's like, what's going on? And she was like, I told the boy bring me a sweeper. He bring me this. And I'm like, is that not a sweeper? And my mom was like, no, she means get her a vacuum. And I'm like, how does vacuum mean sweeper? And she's like, that's what we call it where we're from. She was like, Ma, down here they call it something different. But I bring that up because that points to like cultural differences in what you were saying, like how you feel like some of the backlash against the book was due to people who weren't from here. Because I was reading about some of the attitudes. They did feel like it didn't fit what they wanted to portray. They wanted to portray black people as smart and intelligent and respectable, which makes sense given the time period and what we was going through as a people and what they were trying to accomplish. But it's like you said, just because people are from the South and they talk differently and they have accents and the book is written in accent style of writing does not make it any less smart, any less intelligent. This man done just built a whole town.
And he didn't build it by himself.
Built a whole town in the South. That's number one in the South. Created this whole town, this whole legacy, and got the townspeople involved in creating it. And I also think that speaks to Joe's perspective as well. He had that perspective of like the townspeople were beneath him because they were country and southern, even though he himself was country and southern. But that's a whole other discussion that we can get into.
Yeah, he definitely had a I'm here superiority type of thing going on with him. And I feel like you could see it play out in every avenue of his life, not only with the townspeople, but also how he was with his wife. And that's the thing that I feel like the crazy thing is with him and Janie's relationship is why that feels like most of it, half of Janie's life, but most of it. And so many things happen, like the store gets built, the light gets put up, and we see Joe become an older man. Both of them get older, but he gets a little bit older faster. And Janie is aging elegantly, and he is not. But that's what stress and I guess tobacco do to you.
Stress, tobacco, and being 20 years older.
And her life with him, the main thing I think happened is that she got closed off. She got really, really closed off. But because he wasn't ugly and having her work. He had her work, but she was working outside the store. She wasn't really like pulling and plowing and stuff like that because she already left her first one and because she actually loved him as well. I feel like at some point, I feel like um this is where we see her like shrink. And this you see her age, and it's almost like how real life, how you age. All those dreams of frolicking in the forest and being a tree and being like the bees and all that type of stuff, that's all forgotten. That all goes away. Like reality hits, like her grandma said, and I feel like Joe was the marriage that everybody kind of told her about, of like you are kind of grow to love him, even though she kind of grew to not love him. A tolerable love though, like where they were able to tolerate each other, and she was quiet and she didn't really say much. And even the townspeople thought it was a little bit weird. They like, it's a little bit weird that she don't really talk like that, but she never really did. And he kept her separated from the people. So it's like is that part of it as well, that like sometimes you gotta talk to the people. And he would even though he was on his high horse, he would still chat with the people, he would still talk, he would still go do things. He kept her very much separated from everybody, to where I feel like they had more animosity towards her than they did even Joe. And I think it probably a big part of it was because of how she aged and everything. But I think not just how she aged, was because she was so separated from them. Joe still had a personality in town. He still talked to people. You know, he had to. He recruited a lot of those people to come to town. So these are people that he didn't, that, you know, lived in Carolina, lived up north, lived all these different places, and they saw him, talk to him, and he brought them down there. Versus Janie, he had her there the whole time in the store. They talked to her in the store, but in the store, you like, bro, go give me my chips, my cookies, my whatever. You're not really getting the time to like build a community. So although she was there all those years, and although her and Joe had like this tolerable relationship, she spent a lot of the time not attached to anything. She spent a lot of the time feeling like almost like a foreigner, as if she was still a newcomer the whole time, because she couldn't really connect with everybody else other than, you know, listening to them. And so when Joe dies, let me tell y'all something. I don't want to say his karma, but the way he died, low key, is his karma. Because Jada had been with you since she was 16, 17. She didn't done right by you. She might have left her first husband, but she did right by you. She was in that stupid store when she didn't want to be in that store. She covered her hair when she didn't want to cover her hair. She ain't talked to the townspeople. She did almost everything. Everything. It's probably only one or two times. I think only one time that she disrespected him. One time that she disrespected him. Other than that, she was quiet. She did everything that you asked her. And for you to sit here and go to a medicine man and claim that she put a hex on you and you don't want to talk to her, you don't want to get real help, you, who's supposed to be an upstanding, supposed to be a smart individual, going to some medicine man and out here spewing and telling people that she put a hex on you, other than maybe it's something wrong with your health and you need to call a real doctor. Then she calls a real doctor to come save you, because she's the only person who really actually cares about you and can really get something done. And she called a regular doctor that could have saved you and you could have still had your life because you wasn't that sick. But it got too bad because you was over here working with a medicine man instead of just listening to your wife and going to go get help from a regular doctor because you're that upset with yourself that you're getting older and that she disrespected you one time out of this whole thing. All them years, she did exactly what you asked her. And you over here, then been picking at her, saying whatever you want to say. You talking about her backside, talking about her getting saggy, talking about her looks, talking about all this about her getting old. You've been talking. She say one little thing to you, and now she didn't put a hex on me. That's the way you're gonna really die. That's the way that you're gonna really die. The way he went out did frustrate me. He didn't even have to die. You died because your stubbornness. Just crazy. And I'm glad she got to have her little one word in and got to be able to say something to him before he died. And I feel like that was very freeing for her. And that was probably the first time in a long time that they had an honest conversation. Probably since he became mayor, the first time that they really connected again, even though he was upset about it. You need to listen. She was absolutely right. He needed to listen. And that's not saying in any way that Janie was perfect, but Janie was doing a lot of the bending. She was doing a lot of the sacrificing, and all she wanted was a little bit of time from her husband. She was in that shop. She was in the post office doing stuff she hated. She was tying up hair. She was doing all the stuff that she hated. She was giving, giving, giving. So it's not even to say, oh, she was spoiled, she was this and that. No, she even closed off herself mentally to be able to be submissive to you. So for you to not just want to have that connection with your wife and try to have that connection, at least a vacation, at least do something other than just being at the town. Spend some time with your dang on wife. Take her somewhere. Do something nice. You can't do nothing but talk about her to be that petty. See, baby, that's why she ain't mourning you for however long she was supposed to be mourning him.
I feel like the reason, like you said, they didn't like her because she was so separated from them. But I also think it's also just because she was the woman. And it's just easier to dump on her and blame her. Because they're not going to blame Joe. Joe's the one who's brought them all of this wonderful stuff. He's the head of the town. He's the leader of the town. You know when it's like a successful black man and this your first time seeing a successful black man. It's like when you see somebody in a position that you want to be in, you're not going to talk bad about them or disrespect them. Well, some of y'all might not. I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to be respectful about it, but I'm going to tell the truth. But you know, it's like you're not going to talk bad about that person, be disrespectful, because you don't want to tarnish their image. Because not only do you look up to them, but other people are looking up to them. They represent something that you can attain. Even if they looking down on you, disrespecting you, you still looking at them like, oh, if you did it, I can do it too. I'm trying to be like you. I'm trying to get where you at. So of course they gon' like she said in the book, they had their feelings about Joe, but they wasn't gonna say it to his face because he's still where they want to be, and he can get them to where they want to be if he wanted to. Whereas Janie, what could Janie really do for them? Janie is the mayor's wife, and she really didn't even want to be. So it's like she don't have no position or power to do nothing. So of course they're gonna be like, oh well, it's all Janie's fault that this is happening. It's all Janie's fault that he don't love her. She not doing her job as a wife. She not doing what she needs to do. Even though we as the audience see that Janie is really, really, really exercising every fruit of the spirit because she had every right to go off on that man in the way that she did because he was being very disrespectful, treating her very disrespectfully, and she was just taking it because it's like at the end of the day, like I feel like another part of the reason she was just taking it is because she didn't have nothing else to go to. She didn't have nowhere else to go. Like at that point, Joe was all she knew.
And it wasn't as bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't leave this house, this man with this big old house that get you everything that you want, that do everything for you, that then, she had a lot of respect for him too. Like, he didn't build this whole town. I feel like that's a big part of it's like she has so much love and admiration, respect for him as well, that like you could do a little something.
When he died, now y'all know how I feel about karma. Y'all know I don't believe in that mess. I don't do that mess. But it's like you said, that's his fault. You should have been consulting a real medical professional, not somebody out here just saying stuff. Because look where that got you. Now you're dead. I was really glad that she got her 2 cents in and she let him know what it was. But before he died, there's two things I want to talk about. The first we already kind of touched on. My favorite scene in the book, the change of life. There was a certain professor down at Prairie View who I'm not going to name, but you know who it is. A certain professor who really loved this book. Really loved this book. And when she was talking about that change of life scene, you should have seen the way she was talking about it. She was like, that was the best scene in the book. And she told him exactly what he needed to hear. And, she was just all into it. So, when I got to that scene and I finally read it, I was like, oh, she was right. This was the best scene in the book because that's Janie finally giving that man a piece of her mind that he rightfully deserved. What was your thoughts on that scene?
That was I love that because how I've been saying, you gonna listen to me. That's the least you can do. That is the least you can do. And it's really hurtful. Like, you gonna leave me in this type of way? Like, no, before you leave, you want to go out playing with, I feel like Tiana, you did a deal with the shadow man. That's how I feel. He had everybody else in that town walking in there, talking to him, giving him stuff, and your own wife, the person who been doing the cooking, cleaning, all that stuff for you, you don't want me to do it? And look what happened. You just get worse and worse. No, I'm glad. I'm so glad that she got to get that off her chest and really get to speak and say how she feels. And I feel like at this point, it's like how she said that changes. Like, this is not little girl Janie. This is not the 16-year-old that you met. And this is not the entitled 16-year-old that don't know nothing about life either. This is not the 16-year-old that ain't never worked, didn't do nothing. You know, like, is just there. This is somebody who has made sacrifices and deserves to be listened to and deserves to be heard as an adult and be respected as an adult. And I feel like that's her moment as well of showing like I am a person. You know, like back then too, it wasn't just like a kid staying in a kid's place. It's a lot of also being a woman is a lot of also would also be a lot of being shut out because you are a woman. So it's like you're not even seen as a person in the same way. And I feel like in that scene, she was really able to have that person to person conversation with him, whether he liked it or not. And that's sad to say, but to be truthful, that was the only time they were ever going to have it because otherwise he would have walked away or hit her. That's the tragic part of it, but that's just what it was back then. And what sometimes it still is today. We can't even just say back then. Even today, that still it is sometimes.
I feel like that was the point of no return in their relationship because, like I was saying earlier, the whole town look up to him and all this other type of stuff. As soon as she told that man, "You look like this and you getting older," all that broke the town's image of him. He's no longer the attainable man that we can all look up to. Now he just like us.
And it's like you did it to yourself though, because she was holding in those thoughts. But you want to keep picking, picking, and picking.
See, when you do clownery, the clown comes back to bite.
Because of what you decided to do. And then I forgot, I'm over here talking about he gonna hit her. Didn't he end up actually hitting her?
Yes, she said that, and then he drove her away from the store by putting his hands on her.
But that's what you created. She only responded to you because you want to keep picking, picking, and picking. Again, she's not a child no more. That's the part. She's not a kid. You can't keep doing that to people and thinking that they just gonna stay quiet.
There's one other thing, the meal scene. Every black woman who I've heard talk about this book, they said that meal scene is like the most relatable thing to them. So I want to hear what you have to say on it.
The mule scene is the most relatable thing to them.
Because of that quote, the woman is the mule of the world.
I didn't know ratchet was a language. This is in ratchet.
I ain't no mule, but now I get it.
Like, well,
I get what they're saying. I never even looked at it like that. I never looked at it like that. The whole mule scene, I had just listened to it. The thing about the mule scene that got me the most is like him acting like it was his idea. You was laughing with them. But the second she said this is a messed up thing, now you want to change. That's what I was really thinking about. It's like, now you want to change. But I can definitely see like of us, especially black women, that's how it will be. Even Logan was about to put her to work. Even Joe put her to work. Like you talking about, I'm this townswoman, I'm supposed to be sitting, I'm the mayor's wife, I'm supposed to be sitting pretty. Why am I counting stamps in the store? Like they're still doing the work. But the mule scene for me, the biggest thing for me with the mule scene is those little things, and another thing about communication, but also those little things that he noticed about Janie and getting his perspective and him making, like trying to make that change or trying to do something to impact it for her. So that's more of what I got from the mule scene from that. Maybe I gotta hear somebody else's perspective of breaking that down. Cause for me, I won't say I don't relate to the mule. I can see the connection with everything once you explain it, but me reading it, I ain't have no connection to that mule. I have no connection. I ain't feel no.
I ain't no mule.
No. But I could kind of get it because me and the mule are the same, baby. You is not about to wear me out. That's what thing.
No, because when you said that Janie's supposed to be this town woman, the mayor's wife, but she working in the store, you know what that made me think of? Where we was talking about how you said somebody said his mama and them ain't never worked, and you was like, every black woman I know has worked.
Yes, and then when he talked to his mom was like, no, she worked. He was like, what about such and such? No, she worked too. What about such and such? Yeah, she worked before her second husband died. Like she worked a little bit before him and died. They be like, he was naming every woman he could think of. And all of them had worked at some point because that is just the life. I was trying to explain it to him. That's the life of black women. We have never had the luxury to not work. That's not a thing. To never have had a job in our lives. No black woman was doing that. Black women were coming home. They were domesticated. They were cleaning, cooking, coming home, but they also worked. it was illegal. Like, that's just that. Even when these men were coming home from war and coming home from, being veterans and stuff like that, even when these men made enough money to where their wives didn't have to work, it was illegal for them not to work. But even outside of it just being illegal for them not to work, most Black women work. That's not to say that there are no Black women that were housewives. There are no Black women that were kept women. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is most Black women, for the extension of our history, most African American women in America, we worked. Since they brought us over here and made us work. They didn't have Black women were not just in the house cooking and cleaning. Black women were also in the fields. Like, it wasn't just like domesticated work. No, we were actually working in the field. Even Logan said it. His old wife would pull the potatoes and get on a mule like it was nothing. That was what people did. That's what everybody did. Everybody had to do. It's not, I think that the idea of like being a kept woman is very new. The idea of not working, especially like just not, that's a new thing. Even today, I don't know many Black women that don't work. I'm just gonna be 1,000% honest with you. I don't know many Black women that have never worked a job in their that don't work. They may not be working now for one reason or the other, or they might have had a time period in their life where they didn't work. But for the most part, I don't know any Black women that never had a job and never worked in their life.
Then look at Janie. I think every position Janie had been in the book, she didn't have to work, but she still had to work. When she was living with Nanny, was she work? I don't know. She might have had chores, but she wasn't really like doing no like serious work. She was spending her time under the tree daydreaming. She gets with Logan. She set up, like Nanny set her up in this nice, with this man who have money, all of this stuff. And what that man do? You gonna get out here, you gonna work. Then she gets with Joe. Joe wants her to be the wife, wants her to just sit there and look pretty, but she still gotta work in the store. So even with her being in positions where she don't have to work, she still had to work.
And I do want to piggyback. The best scene of the book. That was most definitely the best scene of the book.
It was, but
I had to think about it, but I'm like, that was the best scene.
I'm gonna just say this. I just feel like it's hilarious how his image got broke and he was so hurt by that, which I understand, but it's like, I just find it funny how the townspeople was like, oh, he's regular like this and he's no longer attainable, when in fact that should have made him more attainable, because it's like, oh, we don't got to do nothing special to be where he's at. But I guess they wasn't seeing it like that.
I think that for people, and somebody said this before, she was saying, you don't get to make me exceptional. She was saying how God not gonna give me a hookup and not give you one. He not gonna give me a blessing and like not give you one. You don't get off the hook by saying I'm exceptional. I'm not exceptional. I'm a regular person. And I feel like that also is might be a part of it with them, of like, this is just a regular Black man. Like, he's not anything great. Well, if he a regular person, he did that. And I'm a regular person and I ain't done nothing with my life. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it make you feel a little bit bad about yourself. So it's easier to see that person as an exceptional person, as somebody who is unattainable, as somebody who you could never compare to, because then it makes you feel a little bit better about your own life. But for them to try to make it seem like his image is broken, when he got sick, they sure were bringing him food. When he died, they sure were having the hoorahs and making sure they went through their best to go to his funeral. They were still keeping up the looks. Even people that did not like him, they were still doing all the things. And after his death, which I feel like was a lot of the book, like I feel like him and Janie was a lot of the book, and I feel like this next part wasn't that long. But after his death, them people started putting up. They wouldn't even let her grieve for real. I think a month or 2 months in, they already knocking her door. It's a doctor. It's a lawyer. She went through that period and she was still grieving. She wasn't talking to nobody. She wasn't giving nobody the time of day.
I find it funny how they wanted her to like grieve, but then move on. But then once she did start moving on, oh, she ain't grieve him long enough. What do y'all want? What do y'all want for real?
That's exactly what I was gonna bring up, because keep in mind what I told y'all. It was a month or 2 months after Joe had passed, and they didn't put him in the dirt. And men are offering her. They like, oh, I got this doctor. It's men that have been in the town that knew her since she came. They're like, oh, let's date, let's do this, let's do that. Hezekiah is like a store attendant. He was helping her with the store.
He was Mini Joe.
Yeah, he was a mini Joe. So he was helping her out and she let him like, really just run the store and stuff. And she's at the house, she got insurance, the house is paid off, the store, she has all those type of things. So she just sitting around bored. And then one day, everybody's at a baseball game, but she decided not to go. She stayed at the store. I think she was gonna close early or something, but she just stayed because it's not even like she that connected to the people anyways. That's when we meet Tea Cake. And then once she meets Tea Cake and she gets interested in Tea Cake because he's one of the different people that made her interested. Now all of a sudden she ain't grieved long enough. When you came to approach her a month after and wanted to be her friend, it was all good. When y'all wanted to marry her off and get her remarried before time, it was all good. But now that she's dating Tea Cake, this young, good-looking man, now it's a problem. And so with Tea Cake, it's the typical, he a little rough around the edges, but they think it's a typical thing of he is going to get with her just because of her money, because she's older. Not to mention, though, that she's very attractive. She's very attractive. Like, she looks very good for her age. And they all know that as well. So it's kind of contradicting yourself to say, oh, he only with her for money or because she's older, he's going to leave her. When y'all also know that she's attractive and y'all were trying to get with her. But anyways, she ends up falling in love with Tea Cake, slowly but surely. And she runs off with Tea Cake, okay? Now, her homegirl said, slow it down, baby. Because I know that you love him, but let me tell you something. Make sure you bring some money down there and make sure you don't tell him about it. Okay? Don't let him know all the money that you have because you can't trust him. Or just in case. I don't even think she said necessarily trust him because it was her friend. So she was trying to be nice about it. She's like, I know you love him. I know you say this, but we didn't see people come back to town with no money. They got married to these young boys. So just save your money just in case. Put it somewhere where he can't find it. At least take a couple $100 down there. So that's what she do. I don't think she sold the house, but she either sold the store or she just gave the store to Hezekiah. She let him take over it, right? I don't know if she sold it, but I know for sure she gave it up and he was like running it. And so she goes down to meet Tea Cake down south. He's like, doing some work.
Let me just say this. Tea Cake is the husband I hated the most. Like that Tyra Banks video where she yelling at that girl talking about some, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? The first time I read it, that's how I felt with him.
Tea Cake is a person that we all rooting for. And it's written in such a way that he wasn't my least favorite. Logan is my least favorite. Tea Cake is, and I think that this is why I didn't dislike him the most. Now, when they are meeting and at first in town, it's all cute and fine, right? It's cute and fine and it's whatever. But when they leave and they get down south, it's like, it's a rush. That's where their excitement and the rush really comes. And baby, because it's a point where we think he about to leave her. We think he might have left and ran off, baby. He had found her money and then took off. But somehow he didn't. He came back with the money plus more, something like that, gambling. And this is where Tea Cake, I'm like, this boy gonna die. This boy is gonna die some way out here gambling, doing all this crazy stuff. I'm thinking he gonna die that way, but he didn't. But he proved himself, right? Tea Cake proves himself, and he's like, put that money up. We living off my income.
Listen, after that part, when he stole that money from her, it came back. I don't even care that you came back with more money. The fact that you stole from me lets me know right then and there I can't trust you. I can't trust you.
Borrowed it. He borrowed.
It ain't no borrow. It's not borrow if I don't know about it. I wake up, I go look at my dress, and my money is gone and you is gone. Where is my stuff?
The thing that got me for me is him saying we gonna live off of my income. he was so excited about it. He said we gonna live off of my income. And Joe, she's a grown woman now.
The income that you made from stealing my money, that's my income. Give my money back.
Basically, but she's a grown woman now, and she's had the life. She was with Logan. She had that little part of her life, and she's been with Joe. She's had the well taken care of experience, right? She's had the experience of being well taken care of working, but like, working in the house, like not in the house, but like in the store type of thing. She has money. She want to go back. She could still live that life. But she's like, I've had the fancy dresses. I've had everything, that you could name, and I wasn't happy. So she's happy with Tea Cake, and that's all that matters to her is that she's happy with Tea Cake. So Tea Cake is following work. Like he goes different places and travels to find work because they're living off his income. So they go and they move to another place where they're like basically picking crops, if I'm not mistaken, like harvesting. This is where you kind of get a glorified struggle love. I'm not gonna lie. It's like a glorified struggle love. Now, given the things I said earlier about Janie, and she's lived a certain type of life, she's not bothered by this, especially because there's so much love in her life. But I do want to just highlight and make it very important that I think that had she not experienced Joe, and had Tea Cake not been as attractive, I don't think she would be as much in love and willing to do what she's doing with Tea Cake. I do not believe so. Because if that was the truth, she would have stayed with Logan. Because Logan had a lot more land and probably would have made a lot more money than Tea Cake. Tea Cake is working on somebody's farm. Logan owned his land. So that's where it comes into play. And Janie becomes this person, I don't know, living with Joe, or if she just is trying to prove to Tea Cake, like they are both trying to prove something to each other, right? Tea Cake is trying to prove to her that like he wants to be with her despite her age, even though at this point, I think it's not really a big of a thing. And Janie is trying to prove to him that despite the fact that he don't really have no money, that she's still in it with him and she wants to be with him. So not only when does he go out and he starts working at this farm, but Janie decides, you know what, I'm going to pick some peas too. I'm gonna be out here in my overalls just like my man. I could do it just like the other ladies do it. So she go out there just like the other ladies are doing it. And at this point, and this is where a little bit of Janie's insecurities come out because it's a younger girl that likes him. And I don't know if he cheated with that girl or not, but I think that he did.
They would be out there working, and it was this girl that would be like, like flirting with him, picking with him, and like he would be telling her, leave me alone. But like when a dude is like, like they playing, like it's not like he not like, oh, leave me alone.
Yeah,
It's
like
like, leave me alone.
stop.
Like stop. Like, and Janie, because first of all, Janie is older and she been married twice. And because she's been in love previously with Joe, even though she fell out of love with him, she already knows what's going on. She's like, something ain't right about that. So one day, Janie out there in the field working, and she noticed Tea Cake not where he's supposed to be. And so she finds him rolling around in the bushes with the girl. And so he claims they was fighting over a meal ticket. But Janie's like, you must think I'm stupid. And me personally, even though the book never clarifies what was going on, it's left up to you who you gonna believe. But I feel like Tea Cake was cheating on her with that girl. And Janie, because she just so desperately wanted to be in love and just feel love. And also because of the time period, she just decided to look past it and be like, you know what, whatever.
Now, during this time as well, there is another person on the plot. This lady thinks she white, she not, right? And she dislikes Tea Cake. She's like, and I think because in the book, is Tea Cake dark?
Tea Cake is so dark that he looks blue.
Yeah. So Tea Cake is blue black, right? And so this lady who thinks she white, she don't like Tea Cake because, and she's like, he not good for you, Janie. We don't need to be mixing with them. Right? You too beautiful to be with somebody like him. And he overhears her talking like this. And he's like, that lady don't have a comeback. Janie not really listening because Janie don't really believe it anyway. She don't like the lady. She don't want to talk to the lady anyways. And that just make it worse for her. Tea Cake is like, don't break her over. And then later on, the lady brother come. And baby, the lady is trying to mix and mingle the brother with Janie because she feel like, we like, you like, he like, we can make some white babies. You feel what I'm saying? And Tea Cake, already knowing what he know and already overhearing the conversation, he gets upset. And you would think he would want to, fight the brother. No, he decides he wants to fight Janie. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the crazy part. He doesn't fight Janie because he's mad at her. He decides to fight Janie because he want to send a message to the other men that Janie is his. And Janie just decides to just let him. And I'm just like, I don't even know who to start with. I'm like, Janie fight back. TK, why would you think that was the best way to go about this? Like, that's when I was done with him.
What frustrates me with this too is like it was like a whole little thing of like, Janie is, she not like the other women. And I don't know if it was another man watching or if it was TK saying it, but like other women would have fought him. But Janie is so light. She just cried, and like you could see the smack mark on her face, like it leaves a mark because she's just so light and delicate and soft. And they paint it as if like, because she's so light, she's so soft, and that makes her more womanly and all that other type of BS. And it's like, come on. Now this is what we didn't took it too far.
That's the part that had me like, oh, this is a thing. Because what happened was he left bruises on Janie's face. So it was all these men. They saw her face. They was like, dang. If she just took it, our wives, if we had done that, they be fighting back. They don't know how to mind us. Da 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 this da da da. I'm like, why is y'all just hauling off on y'all wives? Why? Why? And they was sitting there really proud of Tea Cake because he did this.
And in love, it made them like her more.
Not even her. It made them like her more, made them like him more. And I'm sitting here, I guess it's because I'm a modern perspective. And also because I just wouldn't do that. I'm sitting here like, why are we admiring a man who just beat his wife? For no reason. There's never a reason to do that, but for no reason.
Because you knew she wasn't going to do anything.
They probably didn't see that as harming her because to them that was normal.
It's something that they couldn't even do. So it's like they just feel happy because they couldn't even do it because they'd be getting their wives actually fight back.
As they should.
And just like stupidity, like he's been, there comes a hurricane, he decides to stay. Now, as somebody who lives in Texas, I know what hurricanes are like. People who live in Florida should know what hurricanes are like, especially the difference between when you live on a coast than when you live in different areas. When you live somewhere where you got stilts and where you live somewhere where it floods a lot, right? And so he decides he gonna stay, and she decides she gonna stay with him when everybody else leaves. Everybody else is leaving. Even this little Jamaican boy, he's some type of Caribbean. He even leave. He from the islands where hurricanes are. That should let you know to get up and go. But did they do that? No.
The whole reason they stayed there is because TK, like he said, we gonna live off my income, right? They haven't touched Janie's money, period.
I'll give him that.
TK is like, the boss say, ain't nothing to worry about, so we gonna stay down here, we gonna make this money. That was where he messed up. I understand why he made that decision because, like, once again, it's the time period. First of all, they probably not even getting paid that much to be down there digging around in them dirt, making all them beans and stuff. They probably not getting paid that much, and they living off his income. It's two of them. I don't even think Janie was hired. I think Janie just got bored in the house and was like, I'm gonna just come work with you. I don't even know if she was getting paid or nothing.
I don't think she was getting paid.
They really just living off what he makes. I understand why he was like, they saying it ain't nothing to worry about, so we gonna stay down here. But T-Cake, everybody that lives in the area is leaving. The animals is leaving. You can see the storm clouds. You can hear the flood wall is struggling to hold the water. And you still want to be here?
T-Cake decided to stay. And guess what happened? The hurricane came like hurricanes do, and it washed the house away because it's not even an actual house. And so they in the mud, in the rain, fighting. They have one friend with them. He don't survive because he gets to the house and he like, you know what? I'm not leaving this house, baby. It can flood. It can do whatever. I'm tired. I'm not leaving this house. They got to keep swimming. So they leave and start swimming.
That's why they were sitting up there fighting for their life, trying to get to where they needed to be.
TK at some point has to like rescue Janie because there's like a dog or something there. And the dog, I think it ends up biting TK, but he ends up fighting it off. And Janie has to like hold him up, but they make it through the hurricane.
Every time I think of that scene, all I think of is Janie holding onto that roof, trying not to fly away, trying to cover Tea-Cake, feeling bad for him. And she over here flying through the air on a piece of roof and they ended up in the water getting attacked by a dog. Like, all of this because she was trying to take care of him, trying to make sure he was good. And he been on foolishness to stole from her, put his hands on her, potentially cheated on her, setting up being jealous about this other man, even though Janie has made it clear she don't want nothing to do with that man. And now she out here trying to cover you with a piece of roof. And gotta go through all of this because of you. When I tell y'all I hated that man.
They make it through the hurricane, and that's all that matters to them, right? And so TK go back to working, Jenny go back to doing what she do. Everything is good. Everything is great until TK gets sick. He gets sick with something. We don't know what it is, but he's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Like it's just getting worse and worse to the point to where Janie, she done been through this before. So she like, come on, let's go get a doctor. So they get a doctor to come down there, and the doctor tells them what it is. And he's like, he's infected. He needs to get a shot ASAP. I'm going to go, talk to somebody to get some medicine. While that's happening, T-Cake is getting a little bit more aggressive. And at some point, it reaches the boiling point to where he decides that he needs to take Janie out. And he attempts this, and it almost goes through. And it comes to a point to where it's him versus Jamie, who gonna survive? Because he has a gun out and he's not hesitating. Because whatever is going on with the disease, it just makes you just more violent. Like from the dog that he got bit by, it just made him more violent. And so Janie has to make the hard decision to, she gonna save herself. She had to save herself because he was already died anyways. And guess what the community decides to do? They decide to say that she killed him. Like she just killed him. They try to make it seem like she a terrible person. She just killed him. She just did this. They were in an uproar. They sent her to jail, to a judge. Everybody's like, TK was just fine. He wasn't crazy. The doctor has to come and say, hey, TK was crazy. Here are the bruises. Like he was beating on her. I didn't get him back in time for the medicine or whatever. I don't even think the medicine could have worked. But still, he comes and the Black people are not happy. They are going crazy over this. They like, no, let us speak, that's not right, And the judge is like, I can send all y'all to jail. How about that? How about let me send all y'all to jail or y'all calm down? So they calm down. Janie is free. She don't get charged with the crime because they know that it was out of necessity. She had to kill him. And so Janie take her last $2, not literally because, she balling, but she take her money and she sends him away the flyway. He got a nice suit. He got a nice casket. Everything is nice. And that's when all the Black people around her realize, oh, she didn't murder him just to murder him. Oh, she must have really, really loved him. She must have really loved him so much. Duh.
The whole death and all of that. Once again, the townsfolk, they always put the blame on her. It's your fault that he died. I mean, if you want to be technical, it was because of her that he got bit, but it's not like it's her fault, but it's more so like it just so happened that she was in a dangerous situation and he went and saved her and unfortunately got bit. Like it's not necessarily it's her fault. It's just it just happened that way.
Who told her to go down there? Who moved down there? Who said it's okay to be there even though it's a hurricane?
It's TK's fault.
Oh, okay. Talking about his her fault. Oh, he took so good care of that woman. He made sure y'all must not have seen her life before. Talk about he did everything for her. She was in the field with him. Were we reading the same book? he wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have. Are we reading the same? The man who smacked her up not because he even thought she would cheat, but to prove a point. That man.
And not even to prove a point to her, but to prove a point to somebody else.
And that man wouldn't harm her.
It's like you said, they was like, oh, it's all her fault until she started getting the casket and all this stuff together. Now, keep in mind, Janie still got her money. I think that just really stuck out to me, like how, like, even after going through all of this, she's still in a position to take care of herself and still be okay and keep on with her life. Like, it's not the end of her. That's what I really liked about the book, is that the book, yes, it's about her love life, but it's really about her becoming her. And her love life is just a part of that because it's her life. But the way them townspeople was acting, everybody loved her up until TK died.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden...
Reminds me of another town.
Then all of a sudden, oh, it's your fault. But she was just your favorite person not even 24 hours ago.
Just a repeat of the same thing that happened in another town. Everybody loved her. She's such an amazing wife, all this stuff. And then he died, and then now y'all got so much stuff to talk about her. Even when she came back, had so much stuff to talk about her.
The crazy part is she had to earn they're liking her because they didn't like her at first. They felt like she saw herself as being too good for them, and she's like, no. She out there working in the field with y'all. She not even getting paid to do that because she wants to be part of the community. She wants to have fun. She wants to finally get to experience being part of something. And then as soon as something happens, all of a sudden it's her fault. Y'all all turned on her. And then just as quickly, y'all came back rushing to her side, all because she paid for a nice funeral.
And she like, I'm leaving. Y'all like, oh, you leaving? Yeah, I'm gone. After y'all, that's how y'all treated me. Yeah, I'm leaving too. If I'm gonna deal with this, I could have dealt with it at home, and that's what she said. I'm gonna deal with it at home in my big old house.
And that's what I really loved about her because at that point, she knew who she was. She knew what she was and was not going to accept. And she was like, whether y'all like me or not, I'm going to be good.
And I think, yeah, she really got to flourish and be herself and learn who she was with TK. And it's saying it had to be a younger man, but I think that's probably the only reason why it did happen was because he was younger. It's like he still had those elements of like wanting to be a man, like we're gonna live off my income, we're gonna do this and that. But for her, she already got money, so she's not really that stressed. And for her, she's seen it as, oh, he wants to take care of me. And like a lot of stuff, she got to experience a lot more and live a lot more. Like Joe would have been like, don't stay out here, don't work. She was like, boy, I'm about to go out here and work. You better get on somewhere. It was all good until that man, she decided to smack her. I won't even say until he decided to smack her.
It was all good till he stole that money. That's where he lost me.
When they moved away. Yeah, when they moved away, it was like well-written struggle love.
This was definitely some struggle love.
It's real hard when you start looking at it on paper. It's beautifully written. It is beautifully written. So it sounds amazing. It's beautiful. It's a love story.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, Danny has had other, relationships, so you get to see that comparison. That I feel like is the most important thing, is that she's had other experiences. But also, she is living off his income. What income? We don't know what income, but he is trying to take care of her. And that's where we get to her in his overalls and her coming back to town, like the beginning. We go back to the beginning of the story, because in the beginning of the story, they are Janie comes home from this time and everybody's like, what happened? So she's telling us, she's supposed to be telling us what happened with her and TK, but she decided to tell us her whole life during the story. And that's what's happening here. She ends up going home and she's telling her friend like she's happy. And she's happy. She's like, I know what love is. And I've got to experience love. And I got to experience it, everything. She was happy in the dirt digging. And I think it does play a part with, like, you don't have to have all the things and all the money and everything. What matters the most is like if you're happy. But I'm also very glad and thankful that Janie did get to have the experience of having money and being taken care of in some type of way, so that she could make the informed decision on whether or not she was okay with this. I'm glad that she was an adult, a grown woman who had been married twice before, who had experienced different partners, so that she could really, that it didn't feel as much of a struggle love. It felt more of a choice than like, I don't really have a choice. But when you look at it on paper and you really do think about it, it's giving struggle just a lot of it. Just a lot of it. It's giving struggle. Can we sort of transition into the movie? Because this was the one time where I was more of a fan of the book than the movie.
I got stuff to say. About this movie.
Their Eyes Were Watching God was adapted into a television movie in 2005. It was written by Suzanne Laurie Parks, Misan Segay, and Bobby Smith Jr., and was directed by Darnell Martin. It starred Halle Berry, Michael Eardley, Ruben Santiago Hudson, Mel Winker, Terrence Howard, Lorraine Toussaint, Nikki Michaud, and Ruby Dee. The film was nominated for several awards, including an NAACP Image Award for Outstanding TV Movie, Miniseries, or Dramatic Special. Halle Berry was nominated for an Emmy, Golden Globe, an NAACP Image Award, Black Reel Award, and BET Award for her portrayal of Janie. Michael Eardley won a Black Reel Award for his portrayal of Tea-Cake, and Terrence Howard won the Austin Film Critics Association Award for his portrayal of Amos Hicks. Ooh, she got awarded for a lot of stuff with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I feel like them people probably gonna be like, why does it matter she got an NAACP Image Award, a BET Award, and a because it's the Black Awards. That's why it matters.
That's exactly why it matters.
It matters to me. So, my preconceived notions before I watched this movie, I've heard this movie is terrible. And I know I say that a lot about a lot of adaptations of books, but I've heard that this movie is truly terrible. I've heard that if you have not read the book, you might like it. If you've read the book, you're not going to like it because it's not the best. Granted, at this point, I've said this about like two other adaptations, and we've been proven wrong, so we'll see. I've heard the acting is good. What I do know is they cast Michael Ealy as Tea Cake, and I'm already pissed off about that because Tea Cake was dark skinned in the book, and they cast the most lightest skinned man possible to play this man. But I do like the idea of Halle Berry playing Janie. I feel like she might be good for that role. But what I've heard is that they focus a lot on Janie's romances, and specifically her romance with Tea Cake. Like, they romanticize it and they kind of lose a lot of like the layered context of the time period and of like things relating to Janie and what she was going through as far as becoming a woman. From what I've heard, they focus a lot on the romance, and like a lot of like the self-discovery and stuff like that is kind of like glossed over, not heavily addressed. It's like kind of just like downplayed in favor of the romance. And so yeah, I've heard that this movie is not that good. And I've heard it not only like just from online reactions, but people in person have told me that this movie is not that good. I'm nervous because I really enjoyed the book. It's possible that the movie will be very disappointing. What I'm hopeful is that maybe at least entertaining. At least I'm just going in to see how this is gonna go because I've heard that the movie itself is not the best adaptation wise. So I'm hopeful that at least as a movie, it's at least good. So my thoughts on the Their Eyes Were Watching God movie, I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was as bad as everybody portrays it to be. But I will say this, the movie does come across as like a surface level telling of the book. Like, it is missing a lot of the nuances and a lot of the details that were present in the book. And I know some people will say, that's the case with every book to movie, book to TV show adaptation. You can't fit everything in there. But it's like, that's true. You can't fit everything in there, but you can at least preserve the spirit of the story. And I felt like the spirit of the story wasn't as preserved as it could have been. They focused too much on Janie's romances and her love life, and they didn't really focus on what the actual point of the book was, which was Janie coming into her own as a woman. But with that being said, the movie, in my opinion, it was well done. Let's just be real. The book is better than the movie. The book is better than the movie. Let's just be honest about that. It's more detailed. It's more nuanced. It feels more real. It feels more alive. The movie just feels like kind of like a surface level going over of the story. If you read the book and you want a super duper faithful adaptation of the movie that includes everything, you're not going to enjoy the movie. If you're like me, some books I want faithful adaptations, but if I go into it knowing it's not going to be the most faithful adaptation, then I'm like, okay, let's see what they did and let's see if I like what they did. That's why I'm like, if you're like me and you go into it knowing it's not going to be the most faithful adaptation of the book, or that it's not going to bring everything, you might enjoy it if you go into it expecting to just watch a movie. I'm going to just be real, and it's not shade. If you're like my dad, if you're one of those people who, I don't need to read the book, I can just watch the movie, just know you're not going to get everything from the book, which is, of course you're not, but like, you're really not going to get the feel of the book. Like, you're just going to get a summarization of the general events, but you're not really going to get the spirit and the feel of it. But overall, I thought the movie was okay. It was okay. It wasn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be. I feel like the people who were really only super upset about it were people who wanted a super close adaptation of the book. Like, they basically just wanted to see the book on the screen. But me being me, because I have an understanding of how filmmaking works and I have an understanding of how you can't fit everything into the movie, and because I also like to see some of the changes that some of these adaptations make, I found it to be an okay movie. It's nothing spectacular. It didn't really do anything new. It didn't really bring or enhance anything from the book story, but it was okay.
I'm not gonna rate the movie, and the only reason why I'm not gonna rate the movie is because I know I'm not gonna rate the movie fairly. I'm just gonna be 1,000% honest with y'all. I know for a fact that I'm not gonna rate that movie fairly because you know how you just have it, especially when you hear an audiobook, you just have certain stuff in your mind.
We can
And
go ahead
like
and
the
get into
movie,
it.
I'm just not gonna do it fairly. It has some amazing actors. It
Mhm.
looked like the cinematography was great, the acting was good. The movie itself was not bad. It's not the movie, it's me.
This
Baby, why
same
was she so dirty? That was my first thing. Why was she so dirty?
this same professor that we was talking about that was raving about the book, because the whole reason she started raving about the book was because we was talking about the movie. She hated that movie. She said that movie was terrible. She hated it. She didn't like it. And I've heard a lot of people who read the book and then saw the movie say they hated the movie. So going into it, I'm like, oh Lord, how this movie finna go? And so then we get into it. I'm gonna say this because I'm gonna give a rating. I know she's not gonna give a rating, but I'm gonna give a rating. As a movie, the movie itself, if you just watch it on its own and don't think about the book, it's fine. It's fine. For adaptation, I gave it a 3 out of 5. We're gonna get into why. And then as a movie on its own, I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. I'm gonna bring up Beloved again because this movie and the Beloved movie were both done by the same production company. When you watch the Beloved movie and you read the Beloved book, those two things, they go together. Like, you need them together. You need the book to understand what's going on in the movie, but the movie also helps you with some parts of the book. Because I'm gonna be honest, some parts of that book, you kind of need a visual aid with it. When you look at the Their Eyes Were Watching God movie, and you don't need them together. You don't need the book with the movie because the movie's not doing nothing for the book.
And I think what might have played a really big part of it is that it's Toni Morrison, that they still had that reference to go to and to talk to and to ask questions of, like, what part do you think is most important, what part that you don't have, versus with this one, it's really like, you can't still talk to her. You just trying to figure out and make guesses on what probably would be the best plan of action. First of all, now that I remember that tea cake is dark, I wish they would have got a dark actor.
Let me make this clear. Janie in the book is mixed black, but because of the time period, she's black. So that's why I feel like Halle Berry was the perfect person to cast for her. But all of the husbands were dark skinned. So why, when I go watch this movie, all of the husbands can pass the paper bag test?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just even them four. It's like the whole main cast was light. And it's like all the supporting characters and all the background characters, they somehow discovered that dark skinned people existed. I was like, so we were just gonna ignore what she wrote?
It's not like they couldn't find actors. I think it was more so of a choice. And my thing is too, did we even get any of Logan? We didn't even see Logan, first of all. We didn't even
He
see
was there for
him.
like
2 seconds. We didn't get no other grandma. We got a lot of Joe.
He was there too for
This
like
was
a
my
little bit.
thing. I ain't gonna lie. I feel like Terrence Howard would have made such a good tea cake. I feel like he would have made such a good tea cake. If you're gonna pick a light person, I don't know why, but I'm like, if you're gonna pick a light person, T could. I understand the hating because he could play a good little villain or whatever, being a hater. I understand him being a hater, but I feel like Terrence Howard could have played Tea Cake. He got some grit to him. To me, he got grit to him, and he got the range, I want to say, but he got grit to him, and he was a video vixen at some point, so he is still attractive. I would have loved to see him instead of what you call it, Michael Early, whatever. I would have loved to see Terrence Howard. I'm not gonna lie. If he was gonna, I get why they made him the hater. Like he did that role just fine, but I think he would have also made a really good tea cake. I don't know if it's because the other boy got the crazy eyes and he could play a good crazy person that they picked him.
No, you gotta think about it. This is Michael Ealy, and this is pre for colored girls. So he wasn't hated yet. Everybody was still loving him. And you gotta remember the direction that they took Tea Cake's character in. Tea Cake in the movie is not the same man as Tea Cake in the book. Tea Cake in the movie don't do nothing that Tea Cake in the book did. Like, they wanted to make Tea Cake the dream guy in the movie. Even though he's supposed to be the dream guy in the book, but he's a realistic dream guy for Janie in the book. Like, that's who she prefers to be with in the book. Even though we might not like her relationship, she likes the relationship.
And given the times, given the circumstances, it's like, it's just realistic versus didn't do it as much for the movie. I think I didn't realize how young Janie was in the book as much in the movie. In the movie, in the beginning, you really realize this is a little girl, because it was annoying, low-key at first. You realize, like, no, this is a little girl. And I feel like the part of Janie's life kind of being with Joe was like, it didn't match up, but it was like, all right. And then with her and TK, it was a cute little scene with her and TK or whatever when they first got together, because that's the part I remember, is like them first getting together. But I just remember, and that's why I think Terrence Howard would have did a better job, and is because that grit part. Like I just especially reading Tea Cake, I'm like, I feel like Terrence Howard would be a perfect. I still do. I feel like he would be a perfect Tea Cake, but because of the direction, how you said the direction that they took Tea Cake in, I guess.
That was my main issue with the movie. They focused so much on her love life and her romances that they just left everything else out.
I feel like in the movie, I didn't get as much of Janie as I preferred, and I feel like it was a lot more superficial, like, and not superficial in the sense of, you know how some people say superficial, like not superficial in like, it's superficial in the fact that we don't go deeper than surface level with who Janie is, because like you said, the book is about Janie's love life, but the book really is about Janie's life. The book is about how she grew up. Like she's telling her friend, listen, in order to understand what happened with me and TK, you gotta understand this part first. Then you gotta understand what happened with me and Joe. Because you do have to understand those things to know why she's okay with what she's okay with TK. Because all those things affect her. You realize the changes that she makes, and you see the growth of her as a person, because how you said, that's the most important thing in this story. Janie is the most important person. Her becoming free, her being locked up and burdened and carrying the weight of somebody else's dream, to being this whole time to being free and being able to make the decisions that she would like to make is what's important. And I do feel like the movie just ain't do it for me. It just didn't do it for me.
Not only did it not do it, but it also like changed the whole reason we was getting the story in the first place. In the book, it's Janie explaining what happened, but it's mostly about her journey into becoming a woman. Whereas the movie's like, oh, this is why I'm back. It's because me and TK, what we had went on, and like now I finally found out what love is and stuff like that. I'm like, this is not why we was here.
That's what the people want us to know. That's what they started off with, the people on the porch. But that wasn't why we was here. We was here for Janie, not for Tea Cake Love Story.
And then they also changed the definition of what watching God meant in the movie. Like in the book, they was watching God because they was watching that thunderstorm. You know how like when it's a thunderstorm, some older people will be like, "Oh, go sit down, go turn off all the lights, go sit down. God
Oh,
is
that was
working."
us. I think
During
that's
the
why I sleep so
thunderstorm,
good. No, we turn off everything. I
you
sleep
know.
so good when it rains because yeah, everything good turned off.
Well, number one, the reason they did that is because back then, if you didn't turn your stuff off, your stuff could potentially get hit by lightning, and like you lose your stuff. In the book, they call it watching God because they watching a hurricane. Because it's a hurricane, it's a storm. During storms, it said, "Oh, we're watching God," right? Watch God work. So, like in the storm, they watching God work. Why in the movie, Janie go jump in the pond? What you doing, Janie? Oh, I'm watching God. She just looking at the sky. What are you watching?
I didn't like Janie in the movie. I did not like her in that movie. I'm
I'm.
sorry. I
I
did
mean,
not. I love
I.
me some Halle Berry.
I think. I think. I think it's because it was Halle Berry. That's why I like Janie. Janie in the book is by far way better than she was in the movie.
She was a person. She
Hmm.
was a person, I feel like. And a woman. Like I feel like most of the story, it's the growth. She's not just a little girl. Like she's a little girl in the beginning. Then she's, more of a mature woman, a young woman in her 20s. Her man are just not living this. And then she's a married woman in her 30s and 40s, like married, living that, lifestyle, domesticated lifestyle or whatever. And then, she's a woman in her 40s, you rediscovering life again, having the midlife, rediscovering it, all those type of things. That's what it gives. The movie, I mean, you don't really get those
Hmm.
elements. Okay, y'all. So my final thoughts on The Odds of Watching God is 5 out of 5 for the book. I'm not rating the movie. I love Janie. If I have to rate the husbands again, I'm gonna say Joe is my favorite. And then Logan and TK are tied because they're cut of the same cloth, to be honest. For me, they're cut of the same cloth. And I will say that my favorite thing. See, one of my favorite things is the writing. That's one of the best things I think I really got, was to be able to see and read the writer that inspired generations, not a generation, but generations. It's so familiar. You can see her influence on so many other writers. But I think one of the other things that I really like is being able to see the growth of Janie and being able to see the perspective of a woman who was Black and well taken care of and taken care of in both aspects. Even when it was with Tea Cake, and even though it wasn't the best situation, she was still being taken care of. She went out and worked because she wanted to work. She wasn't getting paid or nothing, but she went out and did it because she wanted to. And it wasn't the best of a relationship at all. But she had certain circumstances to where she was just fine. They got He died, she went back to her house, she was still just fine in that situation. She could still take care of herself if need be. So it wasn't even necessarily at that point even just relying on a person. But I think seeing her growth and seeing that, especially being able to see her bloom and to get her happiness. Not Joe's happiness, not Tea Cake's happiness, not Logan's, not Grandma's, not nobody else's happiness, but her being able to fulfill her idea of happiness and growth was really nice to see.
My final thoughts: the book, definitely a 5. The movie, as an adaptation of the book, it's a 3. On its own, it's a 3.5. Like, it's fine if you don't have too much expectation of it. What I really liked about this book leads back to the reason we read it in the first place. Number one, because I wanted Tati to read it, because I've been trying to get her to read it for years. But also, number two, because the whole reason I chose it was because of that girl on Twitter being disrespectful. Talking about some, oh, it's written in slave speak and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is like one of the best representations we have of Black Southern life. And it's just crazy. You know, people often claim that Black Americans, especially Black Southern Americans, don't have a culture. But this book right here proves that we do have a culture. And I think that's just really why I like it, because it hits on a lot of things. It represents a lot of things, and she did that research to really like showcase life as it was and didn't try to lie and hide the stuff that wasn't ideal. I respect that, and you could tell that she really did do that work to make this story, even though she wrote it in 7 weeks, which is like still crazy to me. But you could tell she really put in that work to make this story a real life depiction of what it was at the time. And like I said, I feel like that's why the people at the time, the literary circles at the time, didn't like it, because it didn't fit into what they wanted it to be, which is unfortunate. But you know what? The work stands the test of time. So
That's all that matters, because it does most definitely stands the test of time. I agree with everything that you said.
So thank you for tuning into this video. If you liked it, give it a like, a comment. Be sure to subscribe to our channels and check out more interesting content on our channels. Be sure to check out Tati's channel. She be over there vlogging. She be teaching y'all beauty stuff. You know, what you call yourself, the baddie with the budget?
Yes, sir.
So be sure to check out her stuff. It's spelled TateSomne. And if you have an issue with it, take it up with Tati, not me, because I'm not the one that spelled it. I don't think Tati spelled it either. It was somebody, I forget who, but take that up with her, because it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But yeah, so be sure to check out our stuff. Be sure also, because I don't just write books, I read them too. And Tati gonna be mad at me if I don't mention this. But be sure to go check out my books. Be sure to go buy all of them. The link is in the description box. Go check them out, okay? Because I've been telling y'all in my videos that that you won't be disappointed. It's a guaranteed good read. And I have somebody with me who can attest to that, because she be reading them books.
Baby, they be good. I read Creek in one night. The original Creek, I read it in one night, y'all. I'm not playing. I be in them like, and I'm not somebody, because y'all done seen some of my book reviews. I'm not gonna sit here and say something good if it's not. Even if you my friend, I'm gonna put you to the side and be like, listen, this is not it. No, those are some amazing. Ronald is a great writer, y'all. Y'all gotta check him out. Ronald is amazing. And check it out for yourself, because y'all gonna see what we talking about.
Come get caught up on the series. Get into it. What you waiting on? Y'all say y'all want Black written stuff from Black written authors. Here you go. Of Black people of just living their lives. What you waiting for? But yeah, so be sure to check out our content. Be sure to go check out the books if you're interested. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.